Telepathy.
Telepathy.
Your favorite podcast on the internet.
With Enzo and Anna Catherine.
Hey guys, welcome back to Telepathy. So I have some very sad news for episode 96. Anna is no longer with us and it's a tragic story. So story time incoming. This is true crime. Telepathy is a true crime podcast now. Welcome back. And then we reveal Anna and everyone gasps.
Guys,
She's
I'm
alive.
actually alive. How sensational, and how I feel like I could make an entire 10-season TV show, 3 movies, and
And some
season of a
merch.
podcast and merch.
Gotta
about
make merch about it.
what happened to me. Wow,
Exactly.
guys.
That was such a cold opening. Do you have shivers? Well, you are
Yes.
going to, because we're just going to be sharing some really chilling horror stories.
Man,
Just kidding.
you're on it today with the
puns.
yeah,
Thank
that was
you.
really good.
I've been doing
I
this
didn't
for a
expect
year
any
or
of
two.
that.
I'm just kidding. But yes, welcome back to Telepathy, your favorite podcast with Enzo and Anna Catherine. But that was already said in our new intro, which we never talked about actually. We have the new intro.
Oh yeah, we
The
didn't talk about that.
Telepathy.
So it's giving like pretty basic. Like it's pretty basic.
Yes, or like, what is up, daddy gang? That kind of vibe. So yay. But if you couldn't tell, we're talking about true crime podcast today, which Telepathy is not. If you're new here, we make very much not true crime content. Like there's no
Yeah.
other way to describe our content other than just not true crime.
It's not.
It's lifestyle,
Exactly.
society, and culture, but it's not true crime.
It's anything but true crime. Like everything under the sun but true crime.
Yeah, the closest thing to true crime was our private school trauma episode. That was some horror stories that were very much real, but we're going to be talking about the ethics and just kind of this ongoing debate about whether true crime podcasts are good, and not only just the podcasts themselves, but other forms of media such as movies, documentaries, and anything else.
TV shows. TV
Truth.
shows.
Truth. Oh, and video games. I wanted to add that one in there too.
Oh, right. So yeah, we're not like super experts on this topic, but we thought it'd be interesting to just kind of dive into like what this is, because there is a lot of controversy around it. And I know that even some, like, during the time of like the Jeffrey Dahmer TV show, like a year or two ago, I heard a lot of talk about it, especially from Nicole Raffi.
Oh, our dearest Nicole Raffi, we
Yes.
love. But yeah, we should
But-
start off the way we always do, though, with our cam question and icebreaker. And
Yes.
it's episode 96, which is an even number, which means it's
my
Anna's
turn.
turn. Oh my gosh.
Because I'm an even person.
Perf.
So, okay, name, age, and favorite emoji.
Oh, wait, why have we not done that yet? That's so
I know.
good.
I know.
Okay. Hi, I'm Enzo. I'm 18, and my favorite emoji is like the delicious emoji. That's what we're going to name her. The one where it's like a smile with like the lip on the side. How do I even recreate this? How does one like... I can put it... Do you know which one I'm talking about though? Like delicious, like, ate that up.
Oh yes, where it's looking very smug and it's like,
Yeah, like I very much like, just finished a good meal. I love that one. I think it can be used in many different scenarios. I also
funny.
love the one where it's like the eyebrow raised like that. I can insert these emojis for you guys.
That's a good
on
one.
Spotify and YouTube, where the video episodes are exclusively posted. So that option's there for you. What about you?
okay, I've gone through some phases. Like, the tried and true emoji is truly just the laughing emoji. Like, I never
yeah.
gave that up, even when it was considered like embarrassing or weird to use that. Recently, it's been just like I like the blushing emoji, where it's just like, and then
That one can be really passive aggressive, which I love. Not that I like being passive aggressive, but
yeah.
you know what I mean? Like when
That's
I'm
true.
satirical and being funny.
I also like the cowboy emoji because you can just use it
And Antonio Garza, like she really just revolutionized that emoji. Also the cat
Yeah.
laughing, the cat emojis, like with the reactions and stuff. I know that's also a very 2020 thing, but I never really gave up on those either.
You've
So
really inspired me with those because you still use that a lot. And like whenever I use those now at like a rare moment, like I think of you because
good.
I'm
Okay,
like,
yay.
what would Enzo do in this situation?
Oh, amazing. I also love the cucumber emoji. I think it's very cute.
Recently, I've been using, I'm like looking at my recently used emojis. Recently, I've been using the like salsa dancer, male salsa dancer emoji.
Like the
Like,
hands up.
yeah, yeah, because I just feel like it has so many uses, especially just like when I use it when I need to say something without explaining anything else. Like, or just like, yay.
Like almost a little bit of
It's a,
awkward, like, yeah, I'm not going to say anything, but we're dancing. We're
yes,
dancing through
exactly. It's like
life.
awkward. Like, I feel like it has the same case use as the cowboy emoji, where it's just kind of like, okay, this is like something I really need to say. I really, really want them to make an emoji of like the tweaking face where you're like your eyes twitching. Like there have every day I need to use that emoji, and it doesn't
Yeah, we need like
exist.
one regular eye and then the other eye is like an X, like the kind of like eye twitch emoji, you know? Somebody write that down.
I'm thinking of like well, sort of, but like there's there's a version online that I have screenshotted and sometimes just send a literal picture when I need
Okay.
to use it so bad. But it's like one fully open eye, and then it's like embarrassed cheeks, and then the other eye is like half closed, but from the bottom, so the bottom lid is up.
I
Yeah,
see. I see.
yeah, it's very important, and I really hope Apple makes that a thing because I feel that emotion in every fiber of my being every second of the day.
Oh, love. Okay, for music and TV shout outs, let's see if I can get this done in 30 seconds. First shout out is Welcome to the Carter by Lil Wayne from the Carter 6 is the intro track. It's really good. It has a very fresh 2025 hip hop sound to it. Next is Mascara by Deftones because it's a classic and I've been listening to it a lot this
Ooh,
week.
I love
So,
that one.
yes. Oh, record timing. PR'd.
Wow. Yeah. Mine is. Hold on. Okay, mine. Hold on. I have to see who sings it because it's kind of a like random song. Okay, this song is called Bowling Alley by Audrey. Why did my ring light just turn out? 1 second.
Good night.
It's called Bowling Alley by Audrey Hobart. And my friend recommended it to me, and it's really good. It's very like a true, honestly, pop song, but it's like this girl has only like 2 songs out. No more ring light, but it's honestly fine lighting.
It sets
Anyways,
the mood for our dark and scary horror stories. All of this
exactly.
true crime we're about to talk about.
Yeah, no, this is really unfortunate because I've like barely used this ring light. Yes, Bowling Alley by Audrey Hobart. It's really good. You would like it. Also, you can listen to all of these songs that we've shouted out on our playlist at. Wait, I just like at our playlist, the Telepathy playlist, on our Instagram at the Telepathy Pod. We have a highlight with a link to the playlist where you can click on it and listen to all the songs that we've recommended. And with that, do you have any TV or movie shoutouts since yesterday when we recorded the last episode?
Still Love Island, and then week recaps. I went to the pool today and I had a good time and I'm almost done with Sunrise on the Reaping at last. I finally had time to chew away at
Yay.
chew away at some of the book. Is that weird to
Yeah.
say? And then I ran out of sunscreen, so I left the pool because I don't know, I think I got burnt a little bit.
Wait, so how much left do you have of the book?
I have 100 pages left.
Okay, okay. Getting close. I, as a continuation of yesterday, I watched Twilight Breaking Dawn Part 2 last night, as I said I
Okay.
would. And it was crazy. I think I liked Part 1 better, but I still really liked Part 2. And it was just crazy. Some crazy plot twists that I did not expect for Twilight to have. And then today I went to work for most of the day, and that is really it. So yeah.
Love. Okay, should we get into our topics for today?
Yes, we shall. Um, okay. So I feel like we should start how we always do of just like what's the background? What's your relationship with this thing? So like have you ever been into any sort of like true crime related stuff?
The only time I've experienced anything within that niche is honestly when I was in second grade. I was very young, like second or third grade. And this channel called Mr. Nightmare, which I apparently he
Making
still literally
videos?
has most recent one 3 days ago. But he
Wow.
says in the title of each video in all caps, it says true. So I guess these stories are not fictional. So kind of scary, but there was a lot of scary ones. It was just a lot of sleepover horror stories or Uber horror stories, and it definitely set the foundation for me to be scared of for a lot of things. The Uber one
Yeah,
has
why did
definitely
you
stuck with
watch
me.
that as like a third grader? That's so
No,
scary.
why was I doing that? He has like a creepy voice too. There's the music, like what
Yeah.
am I doing? Or even like house sitting story times, hotel
Ooh.
story
Ooh, that's
times.
terrifying.
Like, and I still think about like every time I'm at a hotel, I think about that one. Like, I just remember
Ooh.
like somebody had like the master key and was like breaking into the hotel rooms. Apparently, this is true. Whatever. But oh, there's also a school horror story. So of course, it was like school shooting stuff, which my young mind did not need to hear about that.
Yeah.
Especially for entertainment purposes, because that was something that you see on the news, which is even scarier. But yeah, I don't think that it's good necessarily. And we can get into the whole like ethics of it and all that, but I guess that's just my experience with that. And then in terms of video games, I definitely had like friends who played Call of Duty and I was always bad at it and didn't really find any interest in it. So
Yeah.
yeah, I did have a Fortnite phase and I fear I did play Fortnite very recently with my friends because it's kind of fun to just frolic around. But I think just violence in video games and stuff like that can definitely. I have a lot of opinions on that because I think it does desensitize violence, but we can get into that. What is your experience with any of this kind of stuff?
My experience is that I literally don't have any experience. Like I've never I think the creepiest I got was probably like just like when you were talking about YouTube stuff, it reminded me a little bit of like the Shane Dawson conspiracy theories. I think the furthest I got was like conspiracy theories. Like I do love a good conspiracy theory or like ghost stories, but never like true crime or like I also was never like a video game player, so like unless you count Webkin's Moshi Monsters and Animal Jam and Pop Tropica. But yeah, like I'm also kind of like a scaredy cat. Like I don't really like horror movies. I do love ghost stories though, but not if I'm gonna be like home alone for the next. Like I'm not gonna be watching like something scary in my apartment by myself. Like that's just absolutely not. But yeah, I had heard a lot about, as I kind of mentioned before, like all of these ethics about true crime related things over the past few years because I feel like over the past few years, like since maybe 2020, all of this topic has gotten, well, one, podcasts have become a way bigger thing than they were 10 years ago.
Hey guys.
Hey guys. And two, and like there were a lot of true crime podcasts and also like just a lot of the shows came out like the Jeffrey, is it Jeffrey or Jeremy? Jeffrey.
Jeffrey.
Jeffrey Dahmer, and the Menendez brothers and such. So yeah, like I know that there's like the main crime podcast, like Crime-Junkie. I know that my mom watched that one or listened to that one. But there were just there were lots of people that got like addicted to that type of story. And like what are your thoughts on being addicted to like true crime?
Well, I think the problem starts with like how you adapt it because, it's one thing to be like, oh, we cut Le Poisson out of the Little Mermaid live action because it just doesn't work for live action like that. Like that's that's something that happens when you're adapting
Right.
like source material to something else, whether that's animated to live action or from book to movie, whatever. But I think it's weird to be like, oh, we're going to change this detail about something that happened and is very scarily real. We're going to change details about it to make it more entertaining or make it more engaging for people, or even like adding in a character to like adding in a fake antagonist or a fake friend or something like that to make somebody's life seem more interesting or to balance it out in terms of the elements of a story. Like I think doing that for something that actually happened to somebody is really weird, especially when, I mean, a lot of times I can totally see if a family would be like, I don't want to watch this. So I think just seeing that would be like super traumatic because people are enjoying something and finding entertainment out of something that happened to you and it very much wasn't entertaining for you. Like you
Right.
have literal trauma from something and now people are being entertained by it. Like I can't even imagine what that would feel like. Um,
Yeah.
and it's just like
And
consent and stuff gets tricky, which I know you had some things maybe to talk about with that.
yeah, and I also wanted to say like I think in general true crime is good in like a documentary sense of like if it's not fictionalized in terms of like today we're going to teach you about Ted Bundy and these things because it's literally a historical event. Like
Right, like to retell a story.
yeah, like you need to know about the history of this serial killer to know about the history of serial killers, blah blah blah. But past documentaries, I don't really know if I get the point of like, yeah, expanding on it because because there are so many ethical problems with it that it's so much easier to just write a fake murder story, a fake like a novel and release that and like that's so much it scratches the same itch I feel like, but isn't hurting anyone because it's a fictional story of those that have been told forever, like Agatha Christie, and like some of the oldest books are like murder mysteries.
Exactly. And I think that my thing always with horror movies is I actually have a really high tolerance in terms of how graphic something is or jump scares and stuff like that. Like I don't mind it because I always comfort myself by being like, oh, it's not real or this didn't actually happen. And so I do feel like a lot of people kind of take that mentality that a lot of people share, I think. And then from there, they're like, oh, well, I'm going to show you something real now. But then I
Yeah,
don't know. I don't see the purpose of it, especially when it's like it already happened and it shouldn't have happened. So why are we not like
milking it out.
retelling the story, but like using something that happened as like a basis to create something new? Because if you are twisting details, it's like, what's your intention then, you know?
Yeah. I agree with like the horror movie thing because if you told me like tonight, like I had to watch a scary movie by myself, I would definitely choose something more fantastical, if that's the right word. Like I've seen a few of the like I saw the new Nosferatu recently and I loved that because for the most part because it was like a vampire and like it was just like a gothic horror movie and it was like obviously this there's not going to be a vampire like selling his house to some random guy like the only thing in that movie that like did scare me was like the possession like the girl there were a few scenes where like she was getting possessed and like that like can probably happen to people so like that like scares me because it's like oh my gosh like that can probably happen. But yeah, it's like the serial killer things is what I like really stay away from because it's like that would just like scare me and I would never be able to think about anything else.
Yeah. I think it's more interesting and I feel like I can justify it a bit better when it is a documentary that's not just exploring a specific serial killer, but the entire case as a whole and sort of, you know, what type did the serial killer have or, like, or what, like, who did they target and how were they able to be caught, you know? Like, I feel like the ones that are like
Right.
revisiting case files, like, it's scary. I mean, I think it could be cool, to tell somebody's story. Maybe if it was a case file that was like closed or maybe family members never felt satisfied with the conclusion of the case or something like that. And so maybe using like a documentary to revisit details or talk to new people, like I think that's cool and everything. But when it comes to true crime podcasts where it's just somebody with the microphone trying to tell a story in a entertaining way, I think it can get weird, but I don't necessarily judge anybody who listens to true crime podcasts. Like if you're in a long car ride and that's just what you need to listen to kind of numb your brain,
Yeah.
I don't judge that, but I also think it is weird when people think it's quirky for their only personality trait to be like, "Oh, I love true crime" and all of that, and kind of I'm such a crime junkie. Um like at what point does it get weird? Cuz I think you can cross that line very very quickly.
Yeah. I also think it, like, to kind of to what you were saying, like, I don't think it's like the person's fault. Like, if you enjoy this, like, sure, like, it's being, like, given to you to consume.
Right,
I
like
think
that
it's
was the
more,
goal.
yeah, I think it's more on the producer. Like, I think it's more on the, like, podcaster who's like, I'm gonna make a profit off of telling these stories about real people that went through traumatic events. So it's like, yeah, I think it's more on the creator because I don't know. I don't know. I feel like there's other ways to go about it. I don't know.
Yeah, I think just for like from a writing perspective, I feel like there's so many things that you can take inspiration from and so many other things that people have. Like there are so many stories that need to be told. Like for example, Bethany Hamilton's story, obviously it's super inspiring and I totally see how they would see somebody in her position and
Mm,
think, wow, this would be a really interesting movie to make. And I do see, they added Melina Birch, as an antagonist. Because she's not like she wasn't a real person in Bethany Hamilton's life. Like, I don't think it's necessarily bad that they did that. I can kind of see why they did that just to add to her experiences in the movie and to like build off of that character. But I do think
hmm
it is weird when they try to add depth to a serial killer who was real, like trying to really dive into Jeffrey
mm,
Dahmer's character and see like him as a person and how he existed in this world and to kind of like build off of that and try to like fluff up a character, like to do that to a serial killer feels so weird to me. And it's not the same as adding, an op for Bethany Hamilton. Like maybe she just didn't have many ops in real life and they needed to give her one in this movie. And I'm sure
yeah,
that they communicated that with her. And there's literally clips of her in the movie surfing and everything too. So obviously there was communication between Bethany Hamilton and the creators of the film, but obviously for victims who were murdered, you can't necessarily talk to them about how to adapt their story
yeah.
into a
That's
movie. So
true.
and it's like, of
That's
course
true.
the family might be there, but it's still weird. I don't know.
I liked what you said about like you can't like there's only so much that you can like delve into the backstory of the character of the killer and why they made these choices because I mean it is interesting and people do study forensics and like psychology and like why does this person's brain work in the way that they did this but like there can I feel like in real life there can sometimes be less nuance than like a book like the whole point of like a book and a story in a book is like the character is so developed that even like the most terrible character, even the most evil characters have such a backstory behind them. And I wanted to bring up President Snow in this because like so I was reading an article about the ethics of whatchamacallit, whatever the heck we're talking about.
True crime,
True
crime,
crime.
horror, whatever it is.
Yeah. And it was talking a lot about like the romanticization of these things and like also the fact that if this is like a movie or a TV show, they can cast like an attractive character or an attractive actor that like is playing this person and you almost want to like in some ways as we do with like lots of characters is like you want to like something about them, you want to relate to something about them, or you want to like them or
Root for
like
them.
have, yeah, root for them. And if they choose like a more attractive character, it's like easier to do that. So like for example with President Snow, what I wanted to bring in is that like yeah, you see like edits of President Snow and like people like loving his character, and that makes way more sense because it's like this is a character like even though you hate everything that he has done and you haven't even seen the worst of it because you haven't even finished Sunrise on the Reaping, but as much as you can like hate what he's done, you also have to appreciate how good of a character he is because Suzanne Collins wrote this amazing character with this amazing backstory that has caused him to do the most horrible things ever.
Yeah.
And because of that, you can like almost love him because of how evil he is. Whereas a serial killer, like, or who is a real person, like, you can't really do that because he wasn't written by someone and he was a real person that actually killed people. So it's like, I feel like because the listener or the watcher is so removed from the fact that these things happened in real life, you can almost treat the serial killer and the fictional antagonist as the same type of person. And that's definitely like a bad thing because one's real and one's not real.
Exactly. And Suzanne Collins, like she's the creator of the Hunger Games, so she's able to add depth to this character because she already wrote an entire book explaining all the horrors that he did. So she can just sit and think, why would this lead to this and all of that? And that's so different than seeing a literal tragedy and thinking, let me make up a reason why somebody did this. Like, no, somebody actually did this.
Yeah.
And they probably not like had reasons, but in their mind, there might have been some sort of intention with this. And even if you're trying to bring if you're trying to bring awareness to sociopathic behavior, like bring these stories to light, I think that there's such a different way to go about this. And I don't think that serial killers are the first people that we need to turn to because we've already seen how horrific this behavior can be and like how that ended up turning into a tragedy. But we don't need an attractive Jeffrey Dahmer. We don't need to hear about, like, we don't need to make up his post-killing routine. You know, like that's so beyond messed up. And it sounds like so bad when I'm saying it out loud. But if you think about it, with creating a Netflix show like this and adding in scenes and adding in things that didn't happen and trying to imagine these very real things that happened and coming up with fictional causes for it, like that feels so unethical to me.
Yeah, like there's just such an obvious difference between like that and like let me figure out President Snow's post Hunger Games routine. You know, like there's such a difference because it's like one is fictionalized. I also this was a really interesting point that I found in this article that I read. So have you heard of Cameron Herron?
No. Is that
'Cause
Katie
I
Heron's
haven't.
sister or brother?
No. But I haven't heard of him either. But apparently he was a serial killer. But he apparently was like really attractive or something, and so everyone in real life was rallying for his sentence to be
Oh,
changed to a lower sentence because they loved him so much. And it's kind of like the Luigi Mangione situation, but like that's a different, slightly different motives or things. But it's the same thing of like the audience being like, no, we love this person, like give him less time in jail. And it's like, do you really want a serial killer running around?
yeah. And even people who make it their personality trait or think it's quirky that they like a bad boy and that somebody in a prison jumpsuit, like, yeah, that's hot. It's like, say that one more, look in the mirror, say that one more time and say it with a straight face because I bet you can't because you're going to start realizing how stupid you sound. Like
That's
it's
so funny.
weird.
Yeah. So yeah, that was like a really interesting scenario where it's like it's almost like people just don't take it as seriously, and I feel like it's almost because of this true crime obsession in the media, not the like media news, but like the TV, movies, blah blah blah, entertainment, not media. I think it's because of that obsession that people maybe get like watered. What's the word? It gets like desensitized.
Diluted.
That's the word. You get desensitized to it. So when you see like a real person on a in a trial, you're like, oh wait, this is just like one of those stories that I like. It's not real, or it's not as serious as it should be. So yeah, and I feel like that could, unless you have anything else to say about the true crime stuff, I feel like that could segue into the video game
Yes, I was going to
topic.
say that. I think the last thing is just there are really interesting things in psychology and sociology where you can look at this type of stuff and like research it. But I just think it's so different from using like existing case and, talking to family members or people in this person's life, trying to figure out why they did what they did and how to prevent that in the future and how to recognize signs and, for people to seek help and stuff like that. Like you can use real people and talk to them to try to figure that out. I think that sitting down and coming up with fictional reasons for entertainment, like it just misses the mark and it's such a different thing. But I think
And
that,
on the,
yes.
I was gonna say on the family member topic, something I did read earlier as well was that like a lot of time, or it's not legally required if you're producing a piece of content about this serial killer, it's not legally required to like tell the family members or anyone involved. You can basically release this whole Jeffrey Dahmer, Menendez brothers, whatever show, and the family will know about it just at the same time as everyone else is knowing about it.
Yes, I think that Chicago, I mean, obviously it was made in 1975 or something like that, but it's kind of satire about this whole same thing because it's about,
Ooh, I need to watch that. Maybe I'll watch that tonight.
yeah, about how like it kind of not like romanticizing murder, but thinking is this cool way to get famous and that's how you get in the headlines. I feel like it's the same concept. It's just now we have podcasts and different platforms and different ways and forms of media to share these stories. So it's literally like real life Chicago, I think. I don't know. I feel like that's kind of an interesting connection, but I think that with desensitizing people to violence and stuff, I think video games can play a huge part in that, especially with, I feel like some very young kids, I've seen them playing video games with weapons and stuff like that. And I think just in our current culture, I don't know how beneficial that is. Of course, I
Yeah.
don't think that every single person who plays violent video games, like, I don't think that means that you're have like abnormal behavior, like should seek help or something like that, because I think that is kind of a wild statement to make or like a weird generalization. But
Yeah.
I think there could be kids who maybe need to seek some help or need to reach out to people that are instead turning to violent video games.
Yeah.
So I don't know like what the right answer is or like what sort of the solution to this could be, but I guess if you want to share your opinions first.
I was going to say, like, I honestly don't fully know my stance on this topic because I've just heard so many different things about it. I don't know because I've heard like obviously the one we're talking about of like, it desensitizes you, but then I've also heard that like people can get out their aggression through video games instead of like having to get out their aggression on someone else. And I know that there's probably so many studies about it, and I haven't really looked into it recently, so I don't know what like the new studies are saying. But yeah, I mean, I feel like overall, like there's so many better video games you could be playing that are so much more creative and like there's so many video games out there, and I'm not even a video gamer, so I can't even explain them all. But like, there's just so many I've heard of that seem so they like develop your brain, like the quest ones where you like really have to think about like how to use this. Like I was watching my uncle play Zelda over Christmas of last year, and like it was so interesting because it was just so like you really had to use your brain to think like how am I going to like complete this quest. So in general, I guess what I'm trying to say is like I feel like there's better things you could be doing with your time than playing violent video games, whether they are good or not. Either way, I think there's still better things you could be doing with your time.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that it's all about like there's some good, not some good ones. Okay, it can get very bad very quickly. Like in my opinion, I think it's kind of weird, super gory video games because it can be fun for people, to like learn how to aim whatever and use their controller and like in Fortnite you like build whatever to defend yourself. I think that's fine, but I think it gets weird when like when you shoot somebody in a video game and suddenly there's like blood all over your screen or like your controller is vibrating and there's
Yeah.
guts spilling everywhere. Like I feel like that's weird.
Ew.
No,
Yeah.
literally. I'm like, wait, this is literally too graphic. I just think that's a little bit weird. And I think also with different weapons in video games, like very young kids are now knowledgeable about different kinds of guns and their
Yeah.
power and I don't think that that's a good message, honestly. And I
Yeah.
feel like I could be a little bit biased because I just hate everything related to guns, even like recreational, like shooting with a target. Like I don't do that.
Yeah.
I literally hate that, like the sound of guns. Like I can't even do it. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why sometimes I am like a little bit reluctant to just be like, oh, it's fine. Like it's so casual because for me, it kind of feels like, ugh. So I don't know.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I yeah, I'm trying to think like as a kid, I remember like a few times being around like maybe my brother's classmates at like a birthday party or something and they would be playing like the only one I can remember is like Mortal Kombat. I remember like what that was like. And that game is literally just like a from what I remember, it was just like a different person coming up in front of you, and then you would kill them, and then once they died, then someone else would come up, and then you would kill them. So it's like,
Wow, that sounds so fun.
yeah, I'm sure there's more to it than that, but like that's what I remember, and I don't know if that's like good that that's what I remember. Yeah, and yeah, I do think it's just the overall consensus from this episode is just like the fact that we're desensitizing ourselves to these things. Yeah, because everything feels fictional.
And don't romanticize serial killers. No matter who they cast to play a serial killer, don't do it. Honestly,
Do it.
I would go as far. I don't think I would consume. Okay, wait. Are Criminal Minds episodes based on real things? Because
I
I
don't know. I've
do
never
watch
seen an
Criminal
episode
Minds.
of Criminal Minds.
I
But
can't watch
isn't
too
that
much
more
Criminal Minds though,
about
because
like,
sometimes I start getting really paranoid about the world around me.
yeah. Okay, well, yeah. I feel like Criminal Minds though I mean, I've never really seen it. I've seen like some clips of it, but like isn't it more just about like how the detectives figure not detectives, but you
Yeah,
know, the forensic.
FBI.
Yeah, isn't it more about how they figure it out?
Yeah, and then like I feel like it is kind of important because they show like what kind of questions they ask to family members and
Yeah.
patterns and behavior that they look for. So maybe Criminal Minds actually is pretty good. Like I feel like it can be pretty informative
Yeah.
about forensics, which could be fun.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so I don't think
Because yeah.
everything necessarily has a bad outcome with that. I think it's just consume everything with a grain of salt. I feel like that's been my epiphany for like 15 different
Yeah.
episodes, but
And don't like overconsume, I would say. Like if you want to like learn about this story of this like serial killer, like maybe you watch just like one podcast about it to educate yourself, but not to the point where you become like obsessed with the story unless you're literally like going down the route of forensic science where that's like your passion and you're going to help people with it. Like
yeah.
it's not helping anyone if you're just like dwelling on one story and like obsessing over it.
Exactly. I feel like those are our final thoughts. consume everything with a grain of salt. Ask
Yes.
yourself before consuming something, what was the intention behind making this? Is it good or bad? Would the victim's family be mad if they knew I was watching this right now?
Yeah.
That's a
I feel like we
pretty
never
difficult
even
question.
Yeah, I feel like we never even talked about too, just like the especially the podcast side of things, like the fact that if you're a podcaster just doing true crime episodes, like you're just profiting off of other people's
Right.
stories.
Like, what's your goal with this? Because I feel like having a desire to tell juicy stories in an entertaining way, I feel that's not enough. We need a little bit more intention behind this before so I can know that there's some sort of integrity behind what you're doing. Because you know me, I'm the integrity police. But I'm just kidding. But yeah, and I think also sometimes trying to make it a personality trait, making merch, it's like, oh, you're killing me or something. Like it's not as cute and quirky as you think it is. I feel like it's unsettling. Like nobody's trying to cancel you. It's just like it's a little bit unsettling.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I think that was a good episode from us who aren't super invested in this line of
Yeah.
entertainment. Because it is interesting to talk about. Like, I love talking about like ethics of things.
For sure. You know what we
So
do here? We're
yeah,
ethical. But yeah, thank you so much for listening to this episode of Telepathy. Hopefully it was good. Hopefully it wasn't a nightmare or a tragedy or a horror story. Okay, no.
I
Scratch
hope
that.
I hope you didn't die. I thought that was gonna go somewhere more
I
interesting.
mean, like, I do hope that you didn't die listening to this. But yeah, thanks for listening. Hopefully you made it through.
Yes,
Oh,
that's a good one.
okay.
That was so good. That was really good.
Okay. We're gonna have to make merch now. But okay, thanks for listening. We'll see you next Tuesday with another brand new episode. Follow at the Telepathy Pod on Instagram to stay updated and see snippets and fun other content that we post on there. So yeah, give us a review
Yeah.
or subscribe wherever you're listening or watching
Yeah.
because
You should be watching your back.
or watching the video episodes available exclusively on YouTube and
Wait,
Spotify.
I have one. I have a good one. If you're not watching Telepathy, you should be watching your back.
But you should be watching Telepathy, so
Yeah.
maybe you're back. We'll just have to wait till later. Anyways, I think that we should have ended this like 3 minutes ago. So we'll see you guys next Tuesday. Bye.
Bye.